Let's get started by setting up our units. I go to the Customize pull-down menu and go to Unit Setup. Now I'm going to be giving you units in both metric and imperial. I'll be working in metric. So I'll start by going to the System Unit Setup, and I'm going to set my default unit to centimeters. I'll set the display units also to centimeters. In imperial, you would keep the system unit set up 2 inches, and you could then use the US standard display with feet and fractional inches and 1/8 of an inch, or even something much larger, probably even 1:1, and the default units being inches would be fine. Let's now right-click on the Snap button here, 3D Snap. We'll click on the Home Grid, and we'll set our grid spacing to be 15 centimeters or 6 inches, and set here major lines every 12. And go ahead and dismiss the dialog. We will start by creating a rectangle, which is the inner area of the courtyard. It is basically a 3 by 3 bay rectangle. In the command area, create, shape. In the splines area, we'll select rectangle. Since we know the size of the rectangle, we're going to enter it directly here with the keyboard. Our typical bay in metric is 360 centimeters. In imperial units, it's 12 feet. I will enter here 3 by 360, which is 1080. In imperial units, you would enter 36 feet. And I will allow it to create that rectangle centered about the 0 point. So we click Create. Let's go ahead and zoom out on all the viewports. This object here we're going to keep, and we'd like to use it as a reference. So I'm going to give this a name. Reference Courtyard Rectangle. Let's start the process of creating the vaulted ceiling above our colonnade. We're going to take this rectangle and copy it. So we'll click here, Edit, Clone, and click Copy. And let's actually give it a name right away. Okay. Now we're going to modify this, and we're going to have to change it from a rectangle into an editable spline. So we bring the cursor here to the viewports and we right click. In the menu, go to Convert to Editable Spline. Check again. This is the object that is still selected, Vault Ceiling. Just so maybe it's a little bit clearer that we're working on that particular object, let's move it in space. it needs to be at a height of 240 centimeters or 8 feet from the ground. I'm going to come here to the Select and Move tool and right-click on it. I'm going to type in the offset world the value 240, again, or 8 feet. You can see how it has moved that rectangle now up that distance in the Z direction. You can dismiss this dialog. Let's also hide the other object temporarily. So we can right-click and say Hide Unselected. We're going to need to have two new rectangles created, one 1 foot inside and the other one 12 foot outside of this existing rectangle. We're going to use something in the Editable Spline tool where we edit the splines and offset them. Come here into the selection area and click on this button right there. Go into the spline level. Click on the spline, then scroll down the command panel area until you find the outline button. Here, you'll type in 30, press Tab, or click on Outline. It creates a new outline on the inside. Again, if you had been working in imperial units, you would have typed 12 inches or 1 foot. Now we want to do the other outline outside, so we'll type minus 360 or minus 12 feet. Then again, click Outline. Now we have our two front inside face and outside face of our vaulted ceiling, and actually we don't need this other inner line anymore, so we'll actually just hit delete now and delete it. Let's bring back that previous rectangular object just so we can kind of get a reference. Come here to the viewports, right click again and select here Unhide All. We can now see that other object. You can't select it until you get out of the sub-object mode that we're currently in. You can see here, you try to click on it, won't select. That's because you're in a sub-object mode of another object. So we'll click off here, and now here you're free to select other objects. And you should always use the select button when you're selecting so you don't actually accidentally move it or rotate at the same time. So again, just to review, there's our reference courtyard rectangle, and there is our vault ceiling. Now what we'd like to do is we'd like to extrude this by 210 centimeters or 7 feet. So we'll use here a modifier called Extrude. So we have to be here in the Modify panel. The object that we want here, the vault, has to be selected, and we go here to Extrude. Give the value we want, 210 or 7 feet again, and hit Tab or Enter.